Hi, everyone. Glad to be here today. A little background, just so you know where the nutrition advice is coming from, because we're going to talk about this a bit. I have a master's in sports performance nutrition, plant-based nutrition. Uh, I've had, before joining 80/20, I had my own sports nutrition consulting business, working with athletes, working with sports supplements companies. I know how these things are made, formulated, tested, and I am a big advocate on understanding what you're taking, why you're taking it, if you need it, is it safe? So we're going to dive into all of these things today. At any point in time, this is an open discussion. Please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to do presentation, and then there's time at the end for all things questions. And I will turn this into a PDF so you guys have some copies of slides if you want to look at this afterwards. All right, let's do this. Share. Okay. No, not that. Why will this not present? I just had it.
Is it at the bottom there on the left? It says duration or something. Maybe that one.
No,
Mm.
I just had it before we started.
Uh-oh.
There we go.
Present. Yes. Beautiful.
The big purple button. All right, so scans, safety, and sure things when it comes to supplements. All right, let's do a little quiz here. 3 questions. First of all, how
Elizabeth, before
yeah.
you move on there, I think the screen is stuck on, it still just says for me, scam, safety, and sure things, that
Oh,
present button. So I don't know if you have to share like your whole screen or if you're sharing just that window, because if you're just sharing that window, it's probably not going to share the presentation.
gotcha. Okay, let's do that.
Sorry.
Share. No, we might as
The
well entire screen. There we go. Okay. It's never just easy. Okay, how about,
Yes,
oh,
got this.
you know what? We're just going to do it like this because
Sounds
that's
great.
the day. Okay, so supplement quiz. 3 questions. How many supplements do you currently take? And if it takes you more than about 20 seconds to figure that out, you might be taking too many. So I'm going to give you a sec to kind of collect, picture your supplement cabinet or drawer. Do you know why you take each one? And in this case, it could be because I read about it on an email from a sports supplement company. It could be because I had blood work done. It could be because I've heard that this is important. Or it could be it's been in my cabinet for 2 years and I take it ever so often when I remember to take it, but I'm not sure why. It's fine. And then what is the most effective supplement for athletes? This is kind of a trick question. There are many opinions, and I think the overall answer, I would say, which one is going to have the most benefit for both performance and health and longevity, we're going to go with protein. Protein powder being the supplement, but in general, protein for athletes is important. All right. If you want to put into the comments how many supplements you're taking, the average, just average non-athlete, we'll go with American, takes anywhere between 3 and 11 supplements every single day. Most do not take them consistently, meaning they forget to take them or they take them for 1 or 2 weeks and then stop. Athletes on average take 6 supplements every day. Why they take them, most people would say that they have heard that they're important, read that they are important, or it was recommended to them by a dietitian, a professional athlete, an influencer. Oh, please stop taking nutrition advice from influencers or people that tell you they are nutritionists of some form or another, or coaches, which is why we're talking about this today. And again, back to the most important supplements. Ooh, let's dive in here. I want to see what everyone's doing. All right, creatine. So JW, a multi, omega, electrolytes. That's a good one that a lot of people forget to include, but it is absolutely a supplement. Zero, Jim, zero. We're going to have to talk after this. However, I would rather zero than 10 or zero than 6 if you're taking them and you don't need them. All right, so why do people, especially endurance athletes, take supplements? These are the top 4 reasons: to enhance performance, to increase energy, to improve recovery, or to fix a deficiency. And all of these are really important, especially when it comes to endurance athletes. We are doing what we're doing because we want to perform, whether it's we want to make it on a podium, have a personal best, to improve something from last year. Performance is important to us. We dedicate our time and our money and our resources to the sports that we're doing. So performance is important. Increasing energy. A lot of us have, as JW and I were talking about earlier, multiple responsibilities. We have work, we have family, we have social lives, and we need energy, and training depletes that energy. So it's important that we're replenishing that. Improving recovery. The better we can recover and the faster we can recover, the better we can train the next day, the bigger increases in performance in our training and in our racing. And then what is one of the most important things to me is fixing a deficiency, because this affects your quality of life. And down the road, it can affect things like your rates of chronic disease. It can affect rates of cancer, Alzheimer's. So daily health, and if you are going through life with deficiencies, it's important to know, which we'll get into how to figure those things out as we go along. What I would like to, like, the big focus that I think is most important, and we're going to talk about why safety next, but as a coach, as an athlete, these 3 components: is it safe? Is it supported by evidence? And do I need it? Is it safe? The 2 logos on the left are what you want to look for when you are taking sports supplements. NSF, certified for sport, or informed sport. These 2 have a huge bank of products that they test. And what they're looking for, they're looking for banned substances. They're looking to make sure that the products contain not just the ingredients that they say, but not any extra ingredients, that they're provided in the quantities. So if they tell you you're getting 1,000 milligrams of sodium, for example, Informed Sport and NSF will look and make sure that there's actually 1,000 milligrams of that in there. Because believe it or not, there are some companies that aren't completely honest when it comes to their packaging. I know you're thinking, how could that be? It very much could be. And we'll see some stats that talk about kind of some of the things that are included in some of our supplements. So is it safe? You're going to look for it to be certified by one of these 2 organizations. And if you are, in terms of your daily supplements, things like multivitamins, omegas, probiotics, those you're going to want to look for any kind of third-party testing. And depending on where you live in the United States, in different countries, they have different organizations, but you always want to check for some kind of third-party verification. Next, is it supported by evidence? There are hundreds, if not thousands, of sports supplements, as well as daily dietary supplements that you could choose from. Not all of them are necessary, not all of them are needed. Certainly, not all of them are actually beneficial. Some of them are even dangerous. So, if you are going to be taking a supplement, is there actual evidence to support it? I'm going to list some sports supplements and some daily supplements here. If they're not on my list, there is not enough evidence to support that they will help the majority of people the majority of the time. Now, it doesn't mean that these supplements might not work for one person or they might not work for some people, but I wanted to focus specifically, because your coaches, your athletes, on what we have verified, tested, um, group studies done, pulled in multiple research over multiple years. Is it supported by evidence to be beneficial to athletes in your day-to-day life? Now, again, the beautiful but yet often frustrating thing about nutrition is that this evidence changes. For example, protein. We used to think there was a maximum amount of protein that could be consumed in one serving. We used to think that it was best if you spaced your protein servings out throughout the day. We now know that that isn't necessarily the case in both of those instances. So sports nutrition is always evolving, but the best information that we have at the time, that's what I'm going to be discussing today. And then, do I need it? Have you had blood work done to confirm that you have some deficiencies? Are you using a product just to use it, or are you using a product because you need it? For example, pre-workout supplements. I'm going to go with no, you don't need them. You just need sleep on a consistent basis, or you need to eat before you go train, or you need to manage energy levels and stress levels throughout the day, or potentially you're not getting enough recovery, or potentially your athletes are not getting enough recovery. And so they're going into their workouts tired and they think they need a pre-workout supplement. So do I need it? These are the three things. Is it safe? Is it supported by evidence? Do I need it? All right. When it comes to sports supplements and the supplement industry in general, it is currently a $55 billion industry and that should be not 2023, 2032. It's expected to be at 96 billion. This is not something that's going away. This is something that is growing every day, especially now that we see the use of social media, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, even still Facebook a little. These are no longer social platforms. We found they're now platforms, they're marketing platforms, they're sales platforms. So as this use increases, you will see more and more targeted ads to you on sports and life supplements. Studies have shown that athletes, between 45 and 80% of athletes are using some kind of supplement. And what I think is most important, and why I really wanted to talk to you guys today, when we surveyed, not me personally, surveyed athletes, coaches were their primary source of information regarding supplements. You are important to your athletes. The information that you have and that you give them is important to your athletes. They trust you. You're an already trusted source. And I want to make sure that you feel qualified enough to give them information. Now, this is not to take the place of a dietitian, of a sports performance nutritionist. I don't want you making recommendations that you don't feel qualified to make. But if they're coming to you with questions, I'm hoping by the end of today, you can say, you know what? I listened to a webinar on this. I've read about this. I've listened to podcasts about this. I feel like I can give you the best information that I have. However, I'm happy to connect you with a dietitian, a sports performance nutritionist, one of those, to make sure, like, if you don't feel qualified, own it, tell them so. Because There are a lot of really dangerous supplements out there. Athletes will use them incorrectly. So just know that there is a burden on you as a coach because you are a trusted source for your athletes. All right. And when I say that safety matters, what you want to look at, are you making informed decisions? As I said earlier, is there a third party verification? And then the risk versus reward. While some supplements might work for some people some of the time, as I showed before, supplements are contaminated, supplements are dangerous, supplements don't work for all athletes. So is the potential reward that you're going to get versus the risk of taking something that may or may not have a benefit and may be incredibly dangerous? We see a 2023 study found that 22% of sports supplements contained at least one FDA prohibited ingredient. And we're talking steroids and synthetic stimulants. 22% is a big margin. That's a lot. And they weren't studying all of the sports supplements on the market. They were looking at the big sellers, the most popular supplements, the ones that athletes said, oh, I trust this brand. 22% of them. An Australian study found that 35% of sports supplements purchased online contained one or more of the substances banned by the World Anti-Doping Agency. When I worked with professional athletes, this was one of the main concerns and why we always used NSF or Informed Sport. Because when your sport is your career and you are tested for these things, it matters. And products are contaminated, whether intentional. I'm not saying that sports supplements companies are all trying, to use contaminated ingredients. There are large manufacturing facilities that produce the majority of supplements. Companies will get a formulation together and then they go and use these manufacturers. There's not 1,000 different sports companies and manufacturing facilities making their own. It's also, if it's on the World Anti-Doping Agency's list, I know I'm not a professional athlete, but I don't want to be taking it. So you as a coach or as an athlete of, masters athletes, age group athletes, weekend warrior athletes, I'm going to assume you and they don't want to be taking banned substances either. So knowing how much of the supplement industry isn't what we think it is. 75% of the lifestyle supplements tested had either banned substances or substances that were on warning lists. 39% of athletes that were taking supplements said they'd never even looked to check and see if they were safe supplements. 12% of supplements that were tested through these third-party testing agencies had to go back for more than one product update. So meaning the companies sent their products in, they were tested, they found a banned substance, they sent them back for a reformulation, they resubmitted it, and still 12% of those had banned or mislabeled ingredients in them. Point being, we don't know what's in our supplements. So unless you do, it's better not to take anything than to take something you're unsure of. All right, the meat and potatoes, if you will, of supplements. Now we're talking about, we've done some scams, but we're going to touch on that at the end because I get really hot and bothered about people selling supplements online. I want to go through the sure things. And I want to talk about ergogenic aids versus daily health and longevity supplements. I put those into two separate categories, and you as coaches and athletes should put them into two separate categories as well. The daily health and longevity are things you will want to take, I don't want to say indefinitely, but they're more of like they don't change based on the training that you're doing or the racing that you're doing. You're not going to look at loading vitamin D or omega 3s before your big race. you're going to be taking those consistently day in and day out at the same time, or the best practices time, which we'll get into, in order to live a long and healthy life. Whereas ergogenic aids are things that specifically boost performance, and those are more related to the sport that you're doing. Both are important, but separate categories. All right, ergogenic, just think of that as performance enhancing. These are the 5 that have the most clinical evidence, the largest body of evidence, and has been shown to work for some of those things we listed earlier: improving recovery, improving performance, enhancing workout and training adaptations, increasing race endurance and sustainability. So protein, creatine, caffeine, sodium bicarbonate, and nitrates. Obviously, we're a big group that have talked about, most people know about protein. The reason we talk about it, the reason I call it performance enhancing, is because it helps with muscular growth and repair. An easy way to think about this for athletes specifically, the tried and true formula is anywhere from 2.2 to 3.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. So that's how much protein you want. An easy way to do that for us US based athletes that don't always know how much we weigh in kilograms: body weight, grams of protein daily, kind of as a minimum threshold for that. We know that protein intake, your needs don't change because they are based on your body weight, body composition. Now, you can increase them if you're working on body composition goals. Like, you can, as we age, we know because of things like sarcopenia, which is muscle loss, our protein needs go up, which is contradictory because most people end up consuming less protein as they get older, but we actually need more. So protein, muscle repair, growth, recovery. Creatine. We know that this helps with performance. It increases strength and power because it helps with ATP production. We now know that it helps with brain health. During our race, having that, your body's ability to produce more energy, obviously very important. So protein and creatine are things that we take daily. Creatine, 5 grams a day, is the standard dose for, I'm going to say, the majority of athletes. There are different, on occasion, there are loading protocols. I get asked all the time, does this matter? In specific circumstances, it can be beneficial, but for the most part, 5 grams a day, you want to take it every day. It doesn't matter when. It just matters that you take it every day, because creatine is stored in the muscles, and you want to make sure that those storage levels remain peaked at all times. So you're going to take it consistently. Caffeine, we know for the majority of athletes, this is a performance booster. We know it helps with your central nervous system. It's a stimulant. It increases endurance performance. It increases or decreases the perceived exertion, the perceived pain threshold. So it can help us not only with added energy and brain stimulation, it can also help minimize some of that discomfort, if you will, that we are going through during our race. Caffeine, there are some people that are non-responders to caffeine, so that's why I say the majority of athletes. Most will know if caffeine does not affect them. A 200-gram bolus, meaning all 200 grams of caffeine all at once, is the studied dose and timing for caffeine. Now, if you look at most endurance gels or products that contain caffeine in them, they have anywhere from 80 to 100 milligrams. This is, again, you can drip feed caffeine. You can take it all at once, and taking it all at once is what we know to be beneficial. A lot of athletes do feel a benefit from that drip feed. It kind of maintains that level of energy and stimulation. Caffeine pills are something that I recommend for a lot of my athletes because they can get those that 200 milligrams right at once. Again, this caffeine is something you don't want to necessarily play around with on race day, having never tested before. So it's something when if your athletes come to you, you want to have them testing this out. How does it make them feel? How long does it take to take effect? How long until that feeling wears off? And then you can help better guide them as to where to incorporate caffeine in their race strategy, their race nutrition strategy. Sodium bicarbonate.
Elizabeth, real
Yes,
quick, is there a top end that you think athletes should avoid? Like don't exceed X on caffeine.
it's a great question. Uh, uh, Based on the research, about 400 milligrams of caffeine over I think they did 2 to 3 hours was the kind of peak where they saw a benefit. Danger, we see at like 800 milligrams of caffeine. So while more seems like it would be a better idea, more is not necessarily a better idea. And in this case, much more is actually dangerous and can have the opposite effect in terms of it can act as a brain stimulant when done in the right dosage, but then it can act as a like dull kind of like we see in alcohol. It slows reaction time, slows mental stimulation, slows athletic performance, and then on the flip side can cause issues, heart palpitations, tingling, numbness in some of the limbs if you're taking too much. So I don't like athletes to go above 200 unless they've consumed other products that contain caffeine in them, energy drinks, for example, and they know, oh yeah, I've taken 300, I've taken 400. Again, I'm not saying there, studies have shown there's no difference between 200 and 400 milligrams of caffeine in that 2 to 3 hour period. However, if you're used to that, like 200, you're safe. There's no big difference. I wouldn't exceed 600. I personally wouldn't exceed 400, but
Gotcha.
um, yeah, great question.
JW has a question here too. JW, do you want to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
hi. So, to the best of my understanding and learning is that, the caffeine is one of the few products that will pass that blood-brain barrier, which is the reason we get that reduction in the perceived effort, correct?
Yes, correct. Yep.
Cool. And while I got you, if we can back up to creatine for a minute, I get this
Okay.
one a lot with some of my athletes is yes, creatine absolutely in most instances, I believe, will be beneficial. But how is it for endurance runners? Does the gains outweigh the cons? And the big one I get is the water retention.
Yeah, I get that a lot. So the water retention component, we've actually found that it's more a perception by athletes than an actual fact. Water retention is seen when athletes do creatine loading, meaning they take 20 grams a day for the first 10 days and then pull back to 5. Creatine does saturate the muscles and does make sure that like there is a component of fluid retention. However, after about 10 to 15 days, for most athletes, that goes down. And then we also see that when athletes say, "Oh, I feel bloated and puffy from the creatine," it's more their perception than it is the reality. And if they were to go in and look, like could potentially be 1 to 2 pounds at the most. And the benefit, like you said, the outweighs the, so having that added ATP energy, having that added muscle enhancement, and the ability to perform. We know that the creatine can help with overall muscle performance in the heat, which endurance events, it's not just temperature heat, it's like muscular heat, meaning the energy that your body is producing to power you through an Ironman, an ultra, some of those. The creatine actually helps your muscles maintain that energy throughout, and it helps your body in that physically hot and temperature hot to perform better. It helps with gut absorption and motility of other nutrients while you're training. So more often than not, it is incredibly beneficial. And if you have athletes that are worried about it, I would say use it throughout their training. And then if they really insisted and really said they felt, oh my gosh, I'm carrying so much added water weight, 2 days before their race, they can dial that back. They can either do a 2.5 gram serving or do 0, because their muscles will still have some of that creatine saturation for those 2 days. So that's how I kind of get around that. And, or I will also start athletes on 2.5 grams for the first month and then set them at 5 grams. And that generally, any added water retention ends up being so minimal that they don't feel it or notice it.
Cool. And then just one real quick fact
Yeah.
or fiction. I hear often as well is that it alters their mood or their attitude. Is it the creatine, or would it just be that they're actually out there running 8 hours?
This is a new one. I haven't actually heard that. Are you
Okay.
saying it's influences their mood in a negative way?
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen zero literature
Okay.
on creatine and mood, either boosting or decreasing mood. I am going to guess that like what I do have evidence on is seeing athletes have a decrease in mood and motivation if they are not fueling properly with carbohydrates. So I would guess that the reason they are feeling worse mentally is because they do not have enough glucose on board. Like that is, I would say 99% of the time, that would be the reason that their mood changes.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great questions. I love it. All right. So, okay, sodium bicarbonate. This is, I don't want to say it's a new player in the game, but it's new in the terms of more and more regular everyday athletes are using it. And this is one that I like not hesitate to put on the list, but it's one that you absolutely want to test before using it on race day. Because while it's beneficial for most athletes, there's a little gut intolerance that can happen. There's definitely some bloating, like water retention that some athletes feel. So it's one you want to play around with long before race day. But the reason that we use it mainly is because it buffers and reduces muscle acidity. It delays fatigue. So especially for longer endurance events, full distance Ironmans, ultras, multiple day events, sodium bicarbonate is an excellent longevity and performance booster. Timing is very important with this. 60 to 90 minutes before starting your activity, and then like in Ironman, for example, before you start the swim, and then again incorporating it throughout the bike. And this is where I say athletes want to be I mean, you want to be practicing all of your race day nutrition, but sodium bicarbonate especially, because it has that reaction in some athletes. And we see a lot of the time that it might have some gut and stomach upset the first time, but the more that athletes use and train with it, the better it gets. So again, highly personalized, but it is very effective at enhancing endurance and delaying fatigue and that kind of muscle acidity. Athletes end up cramping less. They can maintain their quote unquote race pace for longer periods of time. So useful, studied, just you want to be testing it before. All right, nitrates, aka beetroot juice. uh, they improve aerobic performance. It enhances blood flow and oxygen delivery to your muscles, to your heart. And again, this is one that I always say we want to make sure that we're testing beforehand. Athletes, depending on the product that you use, some athletes get diarrhea from it. Some athletes end up feeling either heart palpitations or a dramatic increase in heart rate. Some athletes don't feel the effects but as they are going, but they notice at the end of their training or racing session that they were able to maintain their endurance for longer periods of time. Endurance and aerobic activity, I would say that's like, if you're looking at nitrates, that's where the performance benefit lies. 2 to 2.5 hours before your event or your training session starts. Again, this is another one that you want to test out. Figure out what works best for you, what products you like. There are plenty on the market. Beetroot powders, beetroot juice. I get asked, can I just eat beets? The answer is yes. I would say eat beets on a daily basis, or at least 1 or 2 times a week, for not just athletic performance, but for health and longevity. A lot of patients that have AFib, that have different cardiac condition, like nitrates are used as a form of treatment to enhance um, lifestyle for people with different heart conditions and heart issues. So yeah, beets as frequently as possible. They're great for you. Great for endurance athletes. All right, now we switch over to that daily health. And we're looking at protecting your brain, your heart, your gut, your bones, your muscles. I didn't put this on here, your hormones, your circulatory system, your overall quality of life. I always get some pushback. It's really hard to narrow down a list of daily vitamins and minerals that people need because we are so varied in our daily diet, in genetics, like our family health history. We are varied in age, gender, what other outlining conditions we have. If we are coming back from a serious illness, if we are pregnant, if we are 18 versus 45. That being said, these, especially for athletes, I feel very comfortable saying that these 5 are kind of the big 5. I didn't put a multivitamin on, and the reason that I didn't, not that it's not potentially beneficial. Studies have shown that people that take multivitamins care less about their daily diet and will spend less time, like it gives them an excuse not to eat as well as they should. So a daily multivitamin, a lot of people consider it kind of an insurance policy. I don't have a problem with athletes taking it as long as it's a third party tested. The problem with a lot of multivitamins is you end up getting 1,000% of your daily vitamin C, 800% of this one, 500%, 200%, 50%. It can be somewhat of an overkill. It can be potentially dangerous if you're taking other medication. So it's not that don't I haven't seen it work for athletes, and it's not something, if you're not taking any supplements, it could potentially be there. But I would rather you were strategic and intentional with what you're taking. Food first, always. Daily diet is where you should get the majority of your vitamins and minerals. I will never recommend any kind of supplement, especially the daily health group, to athletes unless they have done some blood work. I can say with fair certainty, based on all of the athletes I've worked with, based on all of, the clinical data that we see, that D3, omega-3, magnesium citrate, and iron, especially for females, most people, especially athletes, are deficient in these. So I'm comfortable saying, without reading over your blood work, yeah, probably these are the ones that you're going to want to look at and consider, but always test, don't guess. So there's the kind of disclaimer. Have your athletes do some blood work. If you don't feel qualified to read their blood work or look through it, and a lot of doctors, especially here in the United States, aren't trained in how to properly assess blood work. They just look to see, oh, is it in the green? Meaning, is it safe? Are they in the good window? And then kind of just pass it off. But the good window doesn't necessarily mean it's good for those athletes. It doesn't mean they're on the borderline. It doesn't mean, like, I like to personally look at trends over time, not just one set of blood labs. So it's a bigger kind of a bigger component to their overall health than just going, oh, they had their blood work done, everything looked fine. It's not always fine. So vitamin D3, bone health, brain health, immune health. Um, we know it can help with all of the other performance markers, body composition, muscle recovery. Every athlete I have ever sent, I feel I can say that with all the ones I remember, and there have been many, have all come back deficient in vitamin D3 in various levels, but all somewhat deficient. The majority of them were severely deficient in vitamin D3. So that's one that I consider pretty substantial, even if you live in a sunny environment, even if you train outside all of the time. I've seen it. We know it helps. It also helps with aging and some of those factors, heart health, as well. I see a question pop in. If you want to unmute and ask a question, that's fine. We can go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just ask a real quick
Yeah.
one on the multis again. So is it stand true also for kids or youth athletes, or at least really active kids?
I do like multivitamins for kids for two reasons. One, most kids have a very, for lack of a better word, consistent minimal diet, meaning kids like to eat the same things day in and day out. So there's not a lot of variety to get different vitamins and minerals. Kids also don't often, it's not even adults either, kids often don't have the taste palette for a lot of vegetables, even some kids for a lot of different kinds of proteins. So it would really depend on the daily diet of the child and kind of, I know Jim's kids eat really well. They make healthy food a priority in their home. Their kids choose those foods. Not all kids are like that. So I do utilize multivitamins. Again, only third-party tested multivitamins in kids. And omega-3s, I actually always use in kids because one, it's important for brain health and brain development, and these are those crucial years for kids. But not the majority of children don't love fish, and they're not getting they're the equivalent of their 3 servings of fish every week. So
Right.
to answer your question, I think a multivitamin is a great idea for a lot of kids.
And I think for us ourselves is the omega-3 portion of it. It's like
Yeah.
we know in our house we should eat more fish, but we tend not to. So
Yeah,
it's
right.
the omega-3, and then the other one, here in Canada, anyways. I mean, even in the summer we have short days, so to say. So the D3, right?
Yeah,
So whether it's the 1,000 in the summer and then jump it to 2,000 in the winter or something kind of thing.
exactly.
And we
Exactly.
do that with the kids as well. So
Yep. Yep. And that's great. It's good to be mindful too of knowing that nutritional needs change throughout the year. So, and at heavier training cycles, probiotics, that's one that we've seen, especially for athletes, for immune health, gut health, nutrient absorption during heavy training. If a lot of athletes, there's kind of mixed results on the effects of probiotics for things like um, colorectal cancer and inflammatory bowel disease. And while the majority of studies showed that there is a benefit, we can't clinically say that it's beneficial for everybody. Also, the strains of probiotics really matter. But we have seen in athletes that take probiotics during heavy training cycles, immune system is supported. They're less likely to get respiratory infections. They're less likely to get viral, bacterial infections. Energy is better. Sleep is better. Gut health, like all of those things, we see that they're better, especially during heavy training cycles. So something to consider in that maybe the last big build to your Ironman race, to your ultra, something like that. Or if you're doing back to back to back training cycles, some athletes do that without extensive breaks. Probiotics can help with that as well. All right, I want to make sure I'm running out of time. Magnesium citrate. Um, Again, this magnesium citrate, there are many kinds of magnesium. I could do a whole webinar on that, specifically for uh, muscle and nerve function, for sleep, for bone health, magnesium citrate. When you're looking for it, it's well absorbed, crosses the blood-brain barrier, high quality. Um, with any magnesium, we don't want to start off taking big doses. It can cause loose stools in athletes, but it helps with all of the, almost every single function in our body. Magnesium is either a precursor or is involved in that function, like making that function happen. And many athletes aren't great about getting magnesium in their daily diet, certainly not magnesium citrate. So it's one that I can say, like, back when we talked about risk versus reward, there isn't a big risk other than potentially loose stools. There's not a big risk for taking magnesium citrate, and there are many benefits. So even if you don't, test and think you need it, or you're not getting it, it's one of those that it's like, it's pretty beneficial for almost every function that we ask our body to perform. It's good to have. It's worth spending that money on. And then lastly, iron. This is one, again, I will not have athletes take it unless they've been tested, but we know the majority of female athletes between the ages of 12 and 45 have some kind of iron deficiency or iron absorption issue. A lot of that has to do with the fact that they have a cycle every month, that can lower iron levels. A lot of female athletes have absorption issues. I'm definitely one of those that, like, I always have to take iron, even when I eat a lot of red meat and a lot of, we've got heme iron, non-heme iron, so animal-based, plant-based. A lot of people don't do that conversion well. iron is important, ferritin is important, like oxygen saturation. These are all things that help muscle function, help recovery. You want to make sure that you're taking it if you have a deficiency. All right, let's just do so. Some key takeaways always, and I know this is a discussion on supplements, but I strongly believe prioritizing real food will cover the majority of your nutrition needs as an athlete. Always assess and test, choose wisely, look for that third-party verification, look for studies, look for products that are recommended by dietitians, by coaches that you know, by professional athletes that are actually using those products. Um, don't buy something because it's on sale or an influencer started talking about how it changed their life. Please, please. Consistency and timing. If you're going to be spending your money on these, you need to take them consistently to see them work. And timing is important. Um, and when in doubt, consult a professional. That's what we're here for. Okay, sorry. Didn't leave a whole lot of time
All
for
right.
questions.
Just to kind of scroll back through, I did have one question earlier. Are there specific brands that commit to getting all their products and supplements tested and proven as safe that just off the top of your head, like, oh, this is definitely a reputable, these are reputable brands that
Yeah,
always go the extra mile to make sure it's good.
definitely. Um, Thorn is
Thorn.
one kind of pretty well known. Momentous is a company that carries multiple different products. All of theirs are informed sport. OIAM, there's their creatine, collagen, and see, that's one I didn't put on the list because it's not proven for all to be beneficial for all athletes. However, I have found it to be very beneficial for me, so I take it. Their collagen I love. Metagenics is another. Maybe that could be our follow-up. I could put together some companies that I like. Gnarly, Gnarly, Gnarly Nutrition. All of theirs they're excellent.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the ones that stick out off the top. Ones that I have in my cabinet that I personally buy, personally recommend to athletes.
Gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Anybody else have questions? Alicia, welcome.
Hi. Going back to the sodium bicarbonate. So that's obviously just baking soda, right? But obviously you don't just take baking soda. What brand recommendation dosage do you recommend um, from a starting to a high, low?
Yeah. Believe it or not, some athletes do just make their own with baking soda. And I can't say that it's not financially more affordable to do it that way. It can work. You just have to be kind of specific about it. Uh, not to support one product or another, but Morton has
Yeah.
sodium bicarbonate. They have a pretty good protocol for theirs. If you're going to use it, I I have used theirs, I've used other companies. Morton's is what I found causes the least GI distress. They
Mhm.
have a pretty solid loading protocol. I forget what their um
For body weight. Yeah.
yeah, they do it by body weight.
Okay. I just was curious of because obviously they say like the Morton's one's like ridiculously expensive, but then obviously the gut issues, the pros and the cons too. Yeah. Okay.
And every athlete I've used it with has experienced some kind of gut discomfort, if you will, to start.
Hmm.
I think what I've found to be the most is like I use, even if you want to use your own sodium bicarbonate, I will use their formula in terms of factoring in weight and
Okay.
water consumption. 200 milliliters, yeah, of water at least. Like a lot of athletes will just put like a scoop of baking soda, and by that's like usually like a tablespoon in 1 bottle of water. That is not enough. That is not going to work. Like you're going to have GI issues. So you want to make sure that you get that. It's like a teaspoon of baking. I would start with a teaspoon
Gotcha.
mixed in a water bottle. But
Got it.
I like Morton's protocol a lot. It takes the guesswork out of it. And the beauty is, yes, it's expensive. Test it twice, like buy two packets, test it on 2 long training rides or runs. If it works for you, order a 3rd pack, use it for your race. Like you don't have to start using it every time. If you know it works twice, it will work. Save it for your race. Really good question though.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then one other question I have is about iron, specifically like the ferritin, because I think that's like the big one.
Yep.
So you do their blood work, they do the blood again, so now you know that they have high iron but low ferritin. Is there a way beyond, I know you mentioned that like even though you eat red meat, is it like you're just stuck on an iron supplement to raise your ferritin, or is there kind of a root causes why is your body not absorbing the iron?
Really good question. uh if an athlete came to me with that, the first thing I would do is look at where their iron is coming from.
Mhm.
If it was a female athlete, I would look at if they had a regular cycle. Like I would look at the outside factors before just sticking them on an iron supplement, for example. They could also, like a lot of times athletes don't tell me what they're taking. They could be taking an iron supplement and that's why, like, so I would like pull them off of everything, then have them test
Mm.
because that iron supplement could be over, like adding iron, not fair. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
boosting the iron, not the ferritin. And that could be a problem. They could be taking certain medications that could be causing it. They could be taking their iron supplement or eating iron rich foods, but not having that vitamin C component, which helps increase that ferritin. Yeah, I would do more of like an overall assessment first
Mhm.
and then start working through like checking off some of those boxes.
Okay.
Because I don't see that a lot unless someone is using an iron supplement
Mm.
as opposed to just getting it from their diet.
Mhm.
That answer your question?
Yeah.
You can always reach out to me afterwards.
Thank you.
Well, that was great. Thank you very much. Thanks, Alicia, for the questions. JW had great questions and everything. Thanks, everyone. We'll be sending out some info on over the next few weeks here on some new things we have going on. This actually got my brain turning on even some other things. So thank you, Elizabeth. You guys will be seeing a lot more of her with 80/20. And yeah, everybody have a great weekend and look forward to seeing you at our next event.
Thanks, guys.